The Glorious Revolution, also known as the Bloodless Revolution, is widely acclaimed to be a peaceful revolution. But how peaceful was it truly in England? Before I get into that, I'm going to do a brief recap of the Glorious Revolution. So, this is James II. He ascends to the throne in 1685 after the death of his brother, Charles II. And he's Catholic, which, if you're familiar with 1600s England, is a bit of a problem. Everybody there is Protestant, so it's already creating tensions between those two groups. And then he's unable to get support from Parliament, and so he just has to dissolve Parliament. And when he's unable to create his own pro-Catholic Parliament, he passes the 1687 Declaration of Indulgence on his own authority. And this Declaration of Indulgence gives Catholics and other Protestant dissenters freedom of religion, which might not sound bad in by today's standards, but you have to remember at that time this meant it was a big issue for the Protestant majority in England. So he was not very popular in 1688, but no one was ready for revolution yet until his son James Stuart was born. This meant that he now had an heir and that a Catholic line of rulers could become a thing, which would be extremely problematic. So, seven Englishmen who were prominent, they sent a letter to William of Orange, and he's depicted right here on the left. And they invite him to come to England to be their ruler. And this works out perfectly because William of Orange is in the middle of organizing a defensive coalition against Catholic France, trying to prevent them from expanding their territory. And he needs the support of England for this defensive coalition. So he says, okay, I'll come. And he arrives in Torby, Devon in November 1688 with an army of 20,000 men. So James, of course, is not just going to let it happen. So he's going to try to fight back, except his family isn't really on his side. And what's really bad for him is that his general, Sean Churchill, abandons him. So he tries to flee the first time, but he gets caught. And then the second time, he successfully flees to France. And now James is out of the picture. So this allows the 1689 Convention of Parliament to meet, in which they establish a joint monarchy between William and Mary, and then the William and Mary signed the Declaration of Rights, which becomes what we all know as the Bill of Rights, and they have given up a lot of power to Parliament, so they kind of set that precedent. So back to our question that we want to answer about how peaceful was it truly. Well, let's first take a look at the peaceful aspects of the Glorious Revolution. I mean, it was successful in avoiding all-out war. There was no total battles fought, and there's a peaceful transfer of power at the end. When William and Mary come up, there's no fights. It's just they just get put on throne. But and overall, there were very few casualties. So that's all pointing towards it being peaceful. However, like most things in history, not everything is 100% one thing or the other. There's the threat of Catholic invasion made Protestants in England extremely angry, and they began to target Catholics with hate crimes. This included burning down papals and ransacking their homes, which was reported in English newspapers. That kind of showed the overall dissatisfaction with Catholics at the time and resentment towards them. And one of the more major battles during the Glorious Revolution was the Battle of Reading, which is depicted here on the left in that picture. So it was 600 Irishmen. They were soldiers that went into the town of Reading, and them being Catholic upset the townspeople. So they called in William's forces, which was 250 men, and caught the Irish by surprise and pushed them into the town where the townspeople started shooting at them from the windows, which you can kind of see this guy right there. And that battle ended pretty swiftly. Only 50 people died on the Irish side and a very small five casualties on the Dutch side. So overall, it was not very violent. And that gets us to what you actually need to know about the Glorious Revolution for AP Europe. So it was overall pretty nonviolent, especially when you compare it to its predecessor, the English Civil War. To get the change that it got, it was pretty nonviolent, and it lives up to its name. And then it really helps set up Parliament as superior over the monarchs. Like this is gonna be a kind of a contrast compared to neighboring countries like France and many others are going to turn to absolute monarchs, and that's going to be different in England. And then it also helps inspire other similar movements in an early Enlightenment thought. So John Locke and Rousseau, Montesquieu, they get inspired by the ideas of representation that are so prevalent throughout the Glorious Revolution. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you learned something or at least found it interesting, and good luck if you're taking the exam.